Hey, this is Notser, and we're talking about the U.S. Navy Cruiser Tech Tree Split. Wargaming just showed it off probably a week ago. I'm sorry I'm just getting into it. I was getting ready to do the Let's Battle tour at this point, and I didn't really want to cover it right before I left for Corpus Christi. However, I want to talk about it now because I'm super excited. I had been teasing this for over a year because Wargaming teased it over a year ago, talking about, yeah, at some point we want to do a U.S. Cruiser Tech Tree Split. And part of the reason is that the Cleveland doesn't make sense in its slot. It's a 1942 era ship. It's got the Pensacola and the New Orleans, which are older ships, at a higher point in the tech tree. But when Wargaming conceived the Cleveland at Tier 6, it was the light cruiser. Phoenix, Omaha, Cleveland, all light cruiser caliber. And then you transition to the 203s. So they had to do a lot of reduction in power for the Cleveland. Rate of fire, velocity, you name it, they adjusted it. It was really, really ridiculous in closed beta. I had it in closed beta, and I'm going to try and find a video of it. But I had it in closed beta. Closed beta had advanced firing training, basic firing training, expert marksman. All of these skills were useful for the 152 millimeter because it didn't turn off until, I believe, 155. That was the cutoff. So the Cleveland had better range, better rate of fire, and faster turret traverse at Tier 6. It was a monster. A second to none. Nothing was better at Tier 6 than the Cleveland. And everyone knew it. I loved that experience. They took away advanced firing training, basic firing training, expert marksman. They lowered the velocity of the guns. And the ship that we have today, it's okay, but it's certainly not easy to use. It's very awkward. It's like going on a first date with this girl. You go on the date, and it seems to be working just fine, but it is an incredibly awkward date. Either you're not comfortable talking to her, you don't know where to put your hands, you're sweating all over. You ever been on a date and it's just like, God, why is it so hot in here? When it's not actually hot, you're just incredibly nervous. But it's going all the way to the goodnight kiss. And whatever happens, I guess it's good, right? But the Cleveland, right now, in its current version, is just a shadow of what it should be. Performance and comfortable playstyle, it needs to be improved, and that's exactly what they're doing. They're moving it out of the Tier 6 slot, and it's going into the light cruiser line. It's going to be the Tier 8 of the light cruiser line. It's going to flow more naturally for the era. It's not going to be in a slot where it's a newer ship that's behind an older ship. No, that's all gone. And I'm sure they're going to adjust the stats, velocity, A, all that stuff. I'm going to be very excited to see the Cleveland. I'm hoping that the Cleveland identity is applied to all of the ships for the light cruiser line. I don't want something that sits in smoke. I really like that sort of tankiness that the Americans can have, up into a point, obviously, but that tanky light cruiser identity, it's fun because I can go brawl with DDs, take them out really quick. I like the Mogami for that very reason, and I want more of the same. So, Cleveland's being moved from Tier 6. What's going to replace it? The Pensacola. Pensacola's the Tier 7 right now, and it's going to be moved to Tier 6, which is fair. It is a very awkward ship. It's much better now once you've upgraded it from stock and people are more comfortable playing the game and the improved concealment and stuff like that. But it's still really weird. I'm not going to say it's the worst ship in the game, but it's one of the worst ships in the game for me. And I don't know what makes it bad for me. It's uncomfortable. I feel like I die all the time, instantly. So moving it from Tier 7 to Tier 6, I have no complaints. I do like the way the guns handle to a point. I just don't like how comfortable it is controlling that ship. And maybe at Tier 6, it will be easier and more comfortable with the opposition being of lesser quality, right? At Tier 7, the New Orleans is going to be slotted in. It's also moving from Tier 8 to Tier 7. It's moving down one. which is fine. The New Orleans it's okay. It's better than it was, but there are other Tier 8 cruisers that are probably more interesting. I'm not saying that there's a lot, but Mogami, I love the Mogami. Atago, those are two really fun Tier 8s for me. I think the Charles is pretty good, right? Charles is Tier 8. And I'm not going to say, I think the Hipper needs a rate of fire improvement, so I'm not going to say the Hipper. But other than the rate of fire, the Hipper feels pretty good to me. So the New Orleans at Tier 7. It's going to lose radar, I'm going to assume. Maybe, whoa. Maybe this is an excuse to just have radar on the ship. So there's a mainline radar at the Tier 7 slot. Right now that doesn't exist. It's all premium. And I think this would be a great opportunity, Wargaming, to fix a mistake. You should never offer a special skill, especially a skill like radar, to only premium customers. Premium customers should not have a benefit of having radar over non-premium customers, in my opinion. So I think it makes sense for Wargaming to fix that mistake, and we should lobby for that. You know, obviously they'll lower the power level of radar. Maybe it'll last for 5 less seconds, whatever. But don't take it away completely. And I'm going to try and make sure that Wargaming knows that this will be an easy fix to a very obvious glaring issue. When you go up and play ranked season, when it was Tier 7 for the ranked, it was only premiums. Premiums were the only solution to the smoke menace. And we don't want that. At Tier 8, it's going to be the Baltimore. Baltimore is the Tier 9. I don't think they need to lower its power level. It's going to be lowered by the lack of that extra DPS module slot. So it won't be able to have the better rate of fire or the range module if it so chooses. I'm sure it could get the AA module too, but those are usually the ones that are taken. And that's cool. At Tier 9, we've got a Buffalo. The Buffalo, I think, has been in the game files for a really long time. Hopefully it fits more naturally in between the Des Moines, which is a terror, a monster at Tier 10, and the Baltimore that will be at Tier 8. The new line, the light cruiser line, Tier 6 is going to be the Dallas. I've got flashbacks to Hunt for Red October and that submarine. At Tier 7, Helena. At Tier 8, Cleveland. At Tier 9, Seattle. And then Tier 10, Worcester. So we'll have to see exactly what ends up happening from this. I really hope that they just take the Cleveland and return it to its former glory, and then buff all the ships and design the ships around that blueprint that existed way back in closed beta. That would feel fantastic. I think everyone would love that. But on top of that, Wargaming, let's not pass up this opportunity. We should use this to fix the wrong. And in my opinion, the American cruiser line gives up to the other cruiser lines at this point. It needs to be addressed. I find that on the American cruiser lines, especially the Omaha and the Phoenix, they are absolutely paper thin armor. But the armor is just thick enough that it's very easy to sit it on. So you don't get to benefit from the designs that the French had, where a lot of overpin happens. But you still have to exist there in your paper thin armor and take citadels for days. So I would hope that something would be done to improve the way they play. Either allow the shells to pass through, give it a little bit more range, something to make it feel a little less vulnerable to fire. Just something little. Maybe improve the concealment. I don't know what. But I just hope that this is the perfect opportunity to fix the wrong. And there's a lot wrong, honestly. You know, the St. Louis was a dominant Tier 3. And it's still very competitive. Then you go to the Phoenix and the Omaha, and they feel very mediocre. You know, it's very dangerous. Then you go to the Cleveland, which is far better than the Phoenix and the Omaha, but it's still a shadow of what it once was. And then you go back to the Pensacola, and it's back down. The New Orleans, back down. Baltimore, starting to get better. And then the Des Moines, which is one of the best cruisers in the game by far, both in utility, but also in firepower. So we need to get a little bit more consistent with the increase in power over the tiers, and I'm definitely confident that Wargaming, you can do this. Let's do a little bit more towards the Soviet destroyer split line and less towards the Japanese destroyer split line. We still haven't recovered from that for the Japanese, but the Soviet destroyers feel pretty good. And I'm very excited for this. I expect it to probably hit, if I had to guess, May, June. That's when I think this will hit. But it could happen sooner. It could be in between the Pan-Asian and the French. I hope you enjoy this. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I'll catch you next time.